Good evening, everyone. My name is Charlie Williams, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer and Chief Programs Officer for the Armed Services YMCA. It is my pleasure to welcome everyone to the 14th Annual Angels of the Battlefield Awards, presented by USAA. We are joined by several honored guests and media who are socially distanced here with us at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. However, there are many more of our friends, supporters, and sponsors from across the country watching our live webcast. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us this evening as we celebrate this year's honorees. Our event and our mission to enhance military members and their families in spirit, mind, and body through programs relevant to the unique challenges of military life would not be possible without generous and dedicated sponsors, including our five-star sponsors, USAA and American Airlines. Now, I want to introduce our first distinguished speaker, Vice Admiral William French, who served with honor for over 30 years in the U.S. Navy before becoming the Armed Services YMCA Chief Executive Officer and President in 2015. Admiral French.
Thank you, Charlie. I, too, would like to welcome all of you to the Angels of the Battlefield Awards. Our Angels of the Battlefield Awards is an annual event and one that I personally look forward to every year, as it's the only event of its kind that recognizes the valor and bravery of corpsmen, medics, and pararescuemen serving in the U.S. military today. In the light of the challenges that coronavirus has brought to our country, we put great thought into what tonight should look like, understanding the sensitivity of the pandemic and the significance of honoring members of our military. First, on behalf of everyone at the Armed Services YMCA, I want to send our heartfelt wishes for recovery and resilience to our military family and anyone in this country that has been impacted by this pandemic. A strong military requires strong military families. The Armed Services YMCA strengthens junior enlisted service members, their spouses, and their children by helping them navigate the unique challenges of military life. Through the pandemic, we have delivered over 500,000 pounds of emergency food relief to more than 9,000 military families and provided child care services for essential military and medical personnel. It's in that spirit that we believed holding our Angels of the Battlefield Award was important to do again this year. Regardless of the nature of the crisis we face as a country, our military stands ready every minute of every day to jump into action when they are called, and we want to honor them for that. Tonight is a night of immense admiration for the unparalleled inspiration of the men and women who serve and sacrifice so much for our country and the freedoms we hold so very dear. There are many roles and responsibilities military service members play that support us here at home and abroad. Our awards program specifically recognizes the courage, quick action, and selfless nature of medics, corpsmen, and pararescuemen. They are all force multipliers. That's why it's such a great honor to welcome our keynote speaker, General Mark A. Milley, the 20th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and his lovely wife, Holly Ann. We are humbled that General Milley, the nation's highest-ranking military officer and principal military advisor to the President, the Secretary of Defense, and National Security Council, is with us this evening. General Milley.
Thanks, Admiral French, for that kind introduction. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd also like to recognize General Talleli, who's here, who was one of my commanders back in the day when I was much younger in Korea. A good friend of mine, Lieutenant General Halverson, is here. Halvey, thanks for being here. Rosemary Williams is here, and she does tremendous work and supports our military and military families in so many capacities. And thanks to all of our distinguished guests for being here tonight. To those watching across America, and most of all to the medics, the corpsmen, the pararescue personnel, and their families. It's truly an honor to be part of this great event. And I also want to take a moment to thank the Armed Services YMCA for hosting tonight's ceremony, as they have done for 14 consecutive years, and for your continuous and unrelenting support to the 2.3 million military members who wear the cloth of our nation today. I'd also like to recognize my wife, Holly Ann, who's been a nurse now for 35 years and has spent countless hours comforting the wounded and has grieved with the families of our fallen. She proudly represents the faithful service and sacrifice of all of our family members, who are heroes in their own right and a core strength of our military's resolve and skill. But we are here tonight to honor a select group of individuals who we appropriately call the heroes of our heroes, the angels of the battlefield. These awards are presented to medics, to corpsmen, to pararescue personnel for their bravery and sacrifice while selflessly providing life-saving care on the front lines of freedom. So who are these angels of the battlefield? In the American Civil War, nurses like Clara Barton, who founded the American Red Cross, provided relief and comfort to sick and wounded soldiers on both sides of that horrible conflict, delivering medical care to injured soldiers on battlefields like Shiloh, Manassas, and Antietam. In World War I, stretcher bearers like Felix Brockman ran through enemy artillery fire in mud trenches, sometimes over a mile, carrying wounded soldiers away from the fight in places like Chateau Thierry, Bellewood, and the Meuse-Argonne. In World War II, medics like Desmond Doss ran through Japanese machine gun fire to retrieve wounded infantrymen on Hacksaw Ridge in Okinawa. Or my own mother and father, who both served in World War II. My mother in a Navy hospital in Seattle, taking care of the wounded coming back from the battles in the Pacific, while my father served as a Navy corpsman with the 4th Marine Division on Kwajalein, Saipan, Tinian, and Iwo Jima, saving many lives during some of the bloodiest battles in American history. Or Ron Schurer, a Special Forces medic, who just a few hours ago we laid to rest in Arlington National Cemetery, having passed away after a brutal battle with cancer. Ron received the Congressional Medal of Honor for his action above and beyond the call of duty on 6 April 2008 in Shock Valley in Afghanistan, after his Special Forces detachment was inserted by helicopter on a near vertical mountainside. They came under fierce enemy machine gun, sniper, and rocket-propelled grenade fire. Ron saved the lives of no less than 7 soldiers that day. His Medal of Honor citation reads, "The lead portion of the assault element, which included the ground commander, sustained several casualties and became pinned down on a mountainside. Staff Sergeant Schurer and the rest of the trailing portion of the assault element were likewise engaged by enemy fire. As the attack intensified, Staff Sergeant Schurer braved enemy fire to move to an injured soldier and treat his wounds. Having stabilized the injured soldier, Staff Sergeant Schurer then learned of casualties among the lead element. And Staff Sergeant Schurer fought his way up the mountainside under intense enemy fire. Upon reaching the lead element, he treated and stabilized 2 more soldiers. Finishing those life-saving efforts, Staff Sergeant Schurer noticed 2 additional severely wounded soldiers under intense fire as well. The bullet that had wounded one of those soldiers also impacted Staff Sergeant Schurer's helmet and caused injury to his head. While complete disregard for his own life, Staff Sergeant Schurer again moved through enemy fire to treat and stabilize another severely wounded soldier who had almost lost his arm. Shortly thereafter, Staff Sergeant Schurer continued to brave withering enemy fire to get to the other soldier's location in order to treat his lower leg, which had been almost completely severed by a high-caliber sniper round. After treating that soldier, Staff Sergeant Schurer began to evacuate the wounded, carrying and lowering them down the mountainside. While moving down the mountain, Staff Sergeant Schurer used his own body to shield the wounded from enemy fire and grenade explosions. Reaching the base of the mountain, Staff Sergeant Schurer set up a casualty collection point and continued to treat the wounded. With the arrival of the medical evacuation helicopter, Staff Sergeant Schur, again, under enemy fire, helped load the wounded into the helicopter. And having ensured the safety of the wounded, Staff Sergeant Schur then regained control of his commando squad and led a counterattack in the fight. He continued to lead his troops and in place security elements until it was time for himself to move to the LZ and evacuate on the helicopter. And may God rest his soul. He's an incredible recent example of an angel of the battlefield. And tonight, he is presiding over this ceremony from above as we honor 6 more angels, heroes of our heroes. We will hear the heroic and awe-inspiring stories of an Army nurse, an Army combat medic, a Marine corpsman, a Navy SEAL, an Air Force PJ, and a Coast Guard rescue swimmer. The first of tonight's honorees is the oldest living Army nurse, Regina Benson, who worked countless hours in Army hospitals during World War II in the Pacific in 1944 and 1945, caring for the wounded in Hawaii and in the Battle of Okinawa. And then in 1945 and 46, she also participated and cared for the wounded during the occupation of Japan. She knows that her most significant act of mercy was simply, in her words, to hold the hand of a young soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine who was about to pass so they would not die alone. War is a terrible thing, but it's people like Regina Benson and the other 5 awardees tonight, and the extraordinary heroism of Ron Schur and so many others that bring a bit of humanity to an otherwise brutal and bloody battlefield. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my distinct honor, and I am deeply humbled to present this year's Angel of Honor Award to Army Nurse Lieutenant Retired, 100-year-old Mrs. Regina Benson. Mrs. Benson, will you please join us on stage?
I was an Army nurse setting up field hospitals during World War II in Hawaii, Okinawa, and Japan. I was delighted, jumping for joy, that the war was over and that I could go back home and get married and go to work as a nurse. I'm proud that I was part of World War II serving our country and ensuring the freedom we have today. It saddened me to think how many lives were lost. I made sure that my patients never died alone, that I was always there with them so that I could tell their mother that they did not die alone. America is special because of our freedom, that we can carry out our dreams. My advice to you is honor the military and respect it always. General and Mrs. Milley, Admiral and Mrs. French, honored guests and fellow members of the Medical Corps of all branches of the service. I am very honored to be here to accept the Angel of Honor Award from the Armed Services YMCA. Just a few short years ago, at the age of 24, take it back, I enlisted in the Army Nurse Corps. I could not imagine how profoundly it would change my life. Even today, some 76 years later, I am still being surprised. When I enlisted, I was part of a massive national mobilization to serve the country we loved and to which we owe so much. I was one of 9 children. All of my brothers enlisted, and so not to be outdone, I too enlisted, the only one of my sisters. I realized that my service in Hawaii, Okinawa, and the main island of Japan, setting up field hospitals and tending to the wounded, scarcely can compare to what many others had done, but I was blessed with longevity. So I accept this award not for myself, but on behalf of all the medical personnel who served in World War II, especially my 3 nursing school classmates. We served together throughout the war and maintained close friendship well into our 90s. Before I go, I will leave you with just a few quick stories, whether you want to hear them or not. For all of you singles out there, I met my husband as our 2 units crossed paths while in Hawaii. I retired from the service after the war, but continued as a nurse for many years in a hospital near my home. My husband, Bill, loved the Army and remained in the Army Reserve until his retirement at 65. I guess it is safe to tell that now, with the general present, that the guys rigged Bill's Jeep up a bench-like seat so I could sit next to him as we drove through the pineapple groves in Hawaii. The Army ingenuity. One of my tasks was writing home to families of our fallen soldiers. It was comforting to the families to know that their loved ones did not die alone, but in the company of dedicated doctors and nurses who cared for them. I like to refer to World War II as rah-rah war. As Maxine Andrew of the Andrew Sisters said, some of us felt they deserved medals. None of us deserved the medals. We just did what millions of Americans did. We worked together, fought together, and served together for our nation and for our freedom. It was a unique time of American unity and spirit that sadly may never be equaled again. I hope you all find your service was rewarding as I did mine. There is no question that what you do makes a big difference in many lives. I thank you for your service. With that, I will once again say thank you, General Milley, and the Armed Services YMCA. God bless and congratulations to all awarding and recipients.
General Milley, thank you for your motivational remarks. Appreciate you finding time in your busy schedule to be here with us tonight, and for your continued support for the Armed Services YMCA. And thank you, Mrs. Benson. What an amazing lady, and thanks for your words tonight. You are a true patriot. I love the advice you gave to all of us. Honor the military. I gave to everybody, all Americans, honor the military. I couldn't agree with you more. Charlie, I'll turn the program back to you.
Thank you very much, Admiral, General, and Mrs. Benson. The Armed Services YMCA was founded in 1861 by volunteers who braved the Civil War battlefields to provide care and comfort to troops. Our Angels of the Battlefield awards pay tribute to that history by honoring active duty military service members representing all 5 branches of the United States Armed Forces. Today, the organization has evolved to provide no-cost and low-cost programs and services specifically designed for young military families. Since 2006, we have honored 65 men and women as Angels of the Battlefield. Tonight, we add 5 more individuals who have demonstrated extraordinary courage to save the lives of soldiers and civilians across the globe. The first honoree is the Angel of the Battlefield for the U.S. Army, Sergeant First Class Kyle J. Wagner, a combat medic from Portage, Pennsylvania, and based at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. He was 10 feet away when an IED exploded during a mission in Afghanistan. Although he was injured and unable to hear, he searched for casualties, pulled the injured to safety, started triage, and organized the medical evacuation of the wounded. Today, he uses his experience in his current role as an instructor to train other combat medics. Let's watch his story now.
As I turned to look back through the break in the wall, a Polish soldier had stepped off the cleared path and detonated a very large pressure plate IED. There was just a whistle, a flash, and then everything went dark. It threw me back about 10 feet the opposite direction, knocked me out cold. I felt around to make sure everything was still moving. I couldn't hear a thing. It was just the high-pitched shrill. You can't hear. I was very disoriented, couldn't really see very well. And then that's when I saw another soldier leading our interpreter away from the blast site. I, immediately sat him down, and I just kept asking if somebody else was hurt, and people kept telling me, but I couldn't hear them. So I just kept asking over and over again, is anybody else hurt? And then finally somebody come up and shook me and, pointed, about 20 yards on the other side of the wall, is where the Polish soldier had landed. We will do whatever it takes to save our guys. We will charge into the fire. We'll dive into that burning vehicle. We'll, run across the open field and fire to get to our people, because we care, and that's what we're here for. We understand that this is a part of war. This is what happens. And I'm just glad to be back home and to be with my family and to be able to coach, teach, and mentor our soldiers. That's all I want to do. I want them to be a better medic than I am. That's my goal.
Congratulations, Sergeant Wagner, for being selected as the 2020 Angel of the Battlefield for the U.S. Army.
Good evening, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. General Milley, thank you for being here, sir. Vice Admiral French, you have a top-notch organization. Thank you for everything that you guys do. I wanted to thank my wife for being the strong suit, keeping me in line, and she realizes she's married to the Army as well, so we make a perfect couple. To all the medics, corpsmen, and PJs out there, I just ask that you train hard and you save lives. That's what we do. That's what this is about. And I'm very humbled and honored to be the recipient of this reward. So thank you very much, everybody. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Congratulations again, and thank you for training the next generation of combat medics. The next Angel of the Battlefield represents the U.S. Marine Corps. Hospital Corpsman First Class William A. McGrath of the U.S. Navy. Navy Corpsman McGrath is from Lansing, Michigan, and is based at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. He was attached to a Marine Corps team while on deployment in January of this year in East Africa, where he helped repel a complex enemy attack on an American command center and airfield. Acting as both shooter and medic, he saved the life of a wounded team member and treated several injured firefighters and security forces. Now let's learn about his story.
The attack happened actually right before I came still asleep, including the Special Operations Compound. So we woke up to a complex attack on our compound while a simultaneous attack was happening at the airfield 2 kilometers away, but still on the host nation base. All the aircraft that were normally staged off to the side of the airfield were on fire. Some of the buildings were on fire and this fire was spreading. A few of us hopped out of our vehicles and went to go make sure everyone had gotten out of the surrounding buildings. No one was hurt, no one was injured. And if there was anyone missing, that we'd be able to pick them up. As that was happening, the host nation had finally gotten some fire trucks out there. They were going to set up to start putting out some of the fires. And really, once those fire trucks got out there, that was when we came under attack again. It was while this was going on that a member of our team was wounded in the back of my vehicle. Did a quick assessment. He was good to stay in the fight. He stayed in the fight as long as he could until he started having vision problems. So we pulled him out of the back of the truck and I took his place. You're a medic first and a shooter always, so your jobs really go hand in hand. Once there's a casualty, you still need to win the gunfight while managing your patients. This was really just one of those examples where you had to do both at the same time. Once we had the upper hand in that fight, then that was the time to make sure, do more detailed assessments, take a closer look at our casualty, make sure he was doing okay, that he wasn't downward trending while we're stuck in the back of a truck in a gunfight. Like, I was the only medic on that team, but I wasn't the only one doing medicine that day. They all got their hands involved in medicine throughout the entire day and into the next couple days after that. Every day you're showing up to work, trying to prove that you deserve to have your spot on the team. Really, it just makes you appreciate the caliber of guys that you're working with, so that when days like that do happen, it's really just us going to work.
Congratulations to HM1 McGrath for being selected as the 2020 Angel of the Battlefield for the U.S. Marine Corps.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, General Milley. I really appreciate just being considered for an award like this. It's an extremely humbling experience. I can't thank you enough. Would also like to thank my family, being supportive and putting up with me, letting me do a job like this. Definitely don't make it easy for them. I'd also like to thank my teammates for having an appreciation for medicine and everything that kind of goes into this line of work, and putting up with all the medical classes and being hungry for learning anything they can for medicine. So when it does come time for the patient care, they're a competent set of hands right there next to me to help out. Thank you again, sir.
And congratulations again, very well deserved. The Angel of the Battlefield for the U.S. Navy is a Navy SEAL who is tonight not able to be with us because they are on deployment overseas. As a result of the sensitive nature of their mission, we have been asked to keep the name of the honoree and the mission details as to why they were selected for this award confidential, which we of course understand and respect. They did provide a statement for us to read on their behalf. They said, "Thank you to the Armed Services YMCA for this prestigious award. I wish I could share how appreciative I am in person. However, I am currently deployed. It is a distinct honor to be considered an Angel of the Battlefield, and I am grateful for the continued opportunity to serve my country and my teammates. Again, thank you for the special award." So we do thank our U.S. Navy honoree for their service to their country and for saving many lives. Now we move to the Angel of the Battlefield for the U.S. Air Force, Staff Sergeant Nicholas J. Brunetto. Staff Sergeant Brunetto is a pararescueman from Ewing, New Jersey, and based currently at Moody Air Force Base in Georgia. Staff Sergeant Brunetto was a medic attached to an Army Green Beret team that was ambushed at close range in February of this year. He braved enemy gunfire to grab his medical gear so he could perform a blood transfusion to save a soldier's life, while also managing the evacuation of nearly a dozen patients while under attack. Let's watch his story now.
When the ambush occurred, myself and most of the team were consolidated to one side of the compound. We were mostly talking, packing up our stuff, and then around 6 o'clock, we took machine gun fire from one of the A&A personnel about 15 feet in front of us. Pretty much caused immediately like 11 casualties. 9 of them, I believe, were U.S. and there were other partner forces. There was enough dust kicked up from everyone running and the shooting that you could not tell who was actually shooting. You could see muzzle blasts still coming from the machine gun as well as from other areas. Once I turned the corner to look, another Army soldier had already come around the corner and pretty much became the first patient that I came into contact with. We loaded on the most critical patients. We had set up a security perimeter. We started taking some fire from behind this wall. I was able to engage where they were shooting from. The 18 Deltas that were there and myself and the other guys that were able to do treatment did an amazing job and were able to keep everyone that was injured alive. The team as a whole reacted really well to what the situation was, and were able to get all the guys out of there fairly quickly. Battlefield medicine has advanced in the past 20 years. I mean, it's vital. Like every year, there's been like huge amounts of progression, just like with what the capabilities we have on the battlefield. Honestly, like part of me wasn't like expecting to be awarded for something like that. A lot of it was just being there and doing the job that I had volunteered for.
Congratulations to Staff Sergeant Brunetto for being selected as the 2020 Angel of the Battlefield for the U.S. Air Force.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, General Milley. It is a great honor to be put up for this award. I appreciate my leadership for doing so, and for my team for supporting me, and especially my wife and family for supporting me in my military career. Thanks again.
Congratulations. Thank you for your service. The final awardee of the night is the Angel of the Battlefield for the U.S. Coast Guard. Aviation Survival Technician, 2nd Class James A. Chandler is a resident of Walnut Creek, California, and based at Air Station Houston in Texas. He is being honored for saving a woman's life during Tropical Storm Imelda in 2019 after performing CPR for over 30 minutes, which was also the first time he had ever performed CPR on a live patient. As we listen to his story, you'll notice an accent. He is originally from England and moved to the United States to pursue a career in professional football. But his dreams changed when he watched a documentary and decided to become a U.S. citizen and Coast Guard rescue swimmer. Let's learn more about his story now.
The rain has been relentless here in Southeast Texas. You can see it's still falling right now.
More than 300 people had to be rescued by military trucks and boats here.
The crew and I met in our briefing room and talked about what the case was going to be. The information that was passed to me was that she was in stable condition. She was found unconscious and unresponsive, and that our initial responsibility was to transfer her to a high level of care. So once we got on the scene, the weather was just clear enough to where we could make out a landing zone, and we were able to safely land in this helicopter pad. As soon as we took off, I was able to attach my equipment, my medical equipment, to her and begin my evaluation of the patient. But it was almost instantaneously from when we took off, I began CPR. The transit was about 30 to 40 minutes, and I was performing CPR for about 30 minutes. Once I started, I knew that I wasn't going to stop. Not only were we transporting the patient, but we were also transporting her daughter. And she was in the back and she was watching, and I can't imagine what was going through her head. As we landed, I was still performing chest compressions. In between compressions, I was able to open up the helicopter cargo door. 5, 6, 7 people were just almost instantaneously ready to help within a blink of an eye. Looking back on the events, two things come to mind. Very fortunate that I was able to fly on that case with such a great crew, and also just very humbled in regard to how precious life is. What this job requires, I can't believe that I'm actually doing it. It's definitely a dream come true, absolutely. But there's no doubt in my mind that I have the best job in the world.
Congratulations to Rescue Swimmer Chandler for being selected as the 2020 Angel of the Battlefield for the U.S. Coast Guard.
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you, General Milley. I wish that we were all together in person, just so I could shake everybody's hands, because I'm truly in the presence of heroes. I feel very undeserving for this award, but I can't tell you how appreciative I am to receive it. I just want to thank my wife and my family for just being there and supporting me. Also for my flight crew and for the rest of the personnel over at Air Station Houston. The support that they've given me throughout this time has been immense, and I couldn't have done it without them. So thank you very much.
And congratulations again, Pastor Chandler. That concludes our awards portion of the evening, and now I will hand it back to Admiral French for closing remarks.
General and Mrs. Milley, once again, thank you both for being here tonight. It made it quite special for us. Thanks everybody for attending, both in person or those of you who are watching online. Thanks for making this another special day where we could recognize the heroes on the battlefield, our angels. I close tonight's event with gratitude for our event sponsors. We can't put one of these events on without having great support from various different organizations. Our presenting sponsors we mentioned before is USAA. Our 5-star sponsor, American Airlines. 3-star sponsor is Geico. 2-star sponsors are HealthNet and PenFed. 1-star sponsors, Northrop Grumman, Leonardo DRS, and the YMCA Retirement Fund. The awardee champions are Bell, General Dynamics, and 3M. Our mission champions are Humana Military, Huntington Ingalls Industries, Marsh & McLennan Agency, Sodexo, and Veterans United Home Loans. And our patron-level sponsors are the Association of Military Banks of America, Design Data, KRBR Consulting, Leidos Incorporated, Pitney Bowes, the Roosevelt Group, and Vice Admiral and Mrs. John Byrd. Thank you to everyone who attended and has been watching live. We wish you health, safety, and a wonderful rest of your night. Good night to all. Thank you.